Aaliyah? If it matters.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. What started off as a normal day for the students, parents, and teachers at Rayuto del Sol Spanish Immersion Early Learning Center quickly devolved into a nightmare. This morning, ICE agents followed a teacher into the facility without a warrant and abducted her in front of her students. This woman is a trusted, loved member of her community with a work permit who has dedicated her life to caring for children. What happened today at Rayuto del Sol has left children, their families, and the community traumatized. Let me be clear. No child should ever be terrorized in their school. No parent should ever have to explain to their child why their teacher was dragged away by armed officers. And no teacher should fear that showing up to work to care for and educate kids could result in their arrest. This is a parent's worst nightmare. You drop your kids off at daycare or school every day and assume they're going to be safe. This is a violation of public trust and should send shivers down the spine of every parent. Prior to this administration, the DHA had clear guidelines against conducting enforcement in sensitive locations like schools, daycares, and places of worship. Today's incident shows not only a blatant disregard for those norms, it shows this administration's contempt for public safety and a complete lack of humanity. To the families, educators, and neighbors who have joined us today, thank you for your courage and your support. We see you and we are standing with you. We are calling for immediate answers and accountability from the Department of Homeland Security. We will not be silent while educators, parents, business owners, and other essential members of the community are treated like criminals. What happened here today is unacceptable, and we will not allow it to continue. I'd now like to bring on a representative of Rayuto del Sol and a parent of a child at the facility, Maria Guzman.
Thank you, Representative. My name is Maria Guzman. I am, as the representative said, a parent at Rayuto del Sol. I am also an employee for the city of Chicago, and I am a proud daughter of immigrants of this country. And what has happened today is domestic terrorism. It is a violation of our rights. It is a violation of these children's rights. It is a violation of these teachers' rights who have a right to work in this country and care for our most vulnerable kids. What they are doing is terrorizing our community, terrorizing our culture. These children who have pride in their culture, the parents who are not Latin American or speak Spanish are bringing these children to this daycare because they want their kids to have access to diversity, access to other experiences. That is what founded this country. We are a country of immigrants, and it is absurd and horrific that they have now targeted our daycare centers. Are folks not concerned about this? This is horrific. They have crossed a line. Our schools, our libraries, our churches should be safe places for our children. As parents, what do we tell our children? That those who are in law enforcement are folks who they should be scared of? We have communities who have had that fear forever. How is that okay with folks who are watching this? If you have just sat on the sidelines and watched this happen to other people, They are coming after all of our children. We all need to activate and ensure that this is something that does not continue happening. As the representative of the parent group of Rayito, both current parents and former parents, this is a community. This is a family of teachers who care for our children in the most unimaginable way possible. This is like our grandparents who care, our aunts and our cousins who care for these children. And they have a right to feel safe at their place of work. As parents, we demand the immediate release of this teacher to her family and to her community. That learning environments are viewed as sacred spaces where our children and their teachers don't have to worry about abductions and violence. Children should never have to witness such horrors, and schools should be safe. There were children in the building. There were babies in the building. They came into the building understanding it was a daycare. Federal agents have to be held accountable for entering the establishment without consent. They did not have a warrant. They did not have a warrant. This terror needs to end. ICE is terrorizing our country. This administration is terrorizing our country. How is the leader of this country, who many of our parents came here because they wanted a better future for their kids, how is President Trump okay with this happening? This is not okay. And all of the representatives who are still in support of him, absolutely horrific. These folks were willing to leave children unattended. They took a teacher and could have left children unattended. Think about that. For those of you who have children in daycare or at school, is it okay for them to just come in? Absolutely not. We need action. We need people to do and support our community, our Spanish-speaking community, our Latino teachers, daycare workers. Community is horrified. If you speak Spanish in front of one of these folks, you're a target. I have raised my children to believe that it is something to be proud of, that their grandparents came here to build all of us a better life. How is it possible? What do I tell them now? What do I tell my children? That they have to be embarrassed of their culture, that they have to hide and run because they cannot speak Spanish? I have raised my children to speak in Spanish because I am so proud. Everything that I have stood on and everything that I have done is falling apart. And we need all of you who are not part of this community to join us.
Representative Delia Ramirez, and before she begins, I want to thank my staff, and I know that she does as well. Our staffs are all working virtually around the clock, never more earning their pay. And a tragic irony, they're not getting paid. So we want to thank them, and I'd like to bring on Delia Ramirez.
Thank you, Congressman. You heard Maria just a moment ago. I was with her in the daycare this morning. As I wrapped up a live interview, I got calls that I needed to rush to the daycare. I talked to the parents that were there who said, I'm on my way to drop off my 15-month-old toddler at the parking lot. I see federal masked agents taking someone and rushing into the place that is sacred for my children. As I walked in and I talked to the teachers, one of them pregnant, afraid of the impact from today, going and hiding. Another one, someone that I personally know, hiding with a child she was taking care of because she was afraid that she may die today, while protecting and taking care of someone else's children. This is the force called Department of Homeland Security under Secretary Kristi Noem, an agency of terror. What happened today is despicable. It's unconscionable. It's unacceptable. And as the only member of Congress in this delegation in the Committee of Homeland Security, in the Committee of Jurisdiction, I want you to know that I'm going to be working with every one of my colleagues here, filing an investigation immediately of what's happening. There's also a bill that you should know about. It's called the Protecting Sensitive Locations Bill. that we have filed in Congress. Yeah, Democrats don't have the majority. You don't have to be a Democrat to look at what happened today at Rayito del Sol and know that it was unacceptable. You don't have to be a Democrat to take your kids to a particular daycare. This could happen to anyone. And so there's about 100 members of Congress on the bill, and there's 215 Democrats in Congress. Today, as someone who's personally related to people who are being impacted right now, I call every one of my colleagues to sign onto that bill immediately. I also understand that we have a responsibility. We need to make sure that people understand that these businesses have rights and that we are going to do everything we can to help them uphold those rights. Those agents not just rushed in, they went in other rooms. Sorry that I'm stuttering because I'm still living the footage that I saw. They didn't just walk in chasing one person. They went into multiple rooms asking and looking for teachers while children were present. This is an agency that has gone rogue. And it's an agency that believes that as long as they can cover their face, they can get away with anything. It is why this immediate press conference was so important and why all of us are here, with the parents, with teachers, with someone who I just talked to an hour ago, and she said, Delia, I don't think I can go back to work tomorrow. I don't know that I'm safe, but I'm so proud that we protected those kids while we were there, because their number one priority is the care of our children. So look, we have a lot of work to do, and we're going to do it. I refuse to take any excuses that Democrats are in the minority, because this is a party of opposition to what we're seeing in the streets, and it is our responsibility to use every single tool at our disposal. And it's also incredibly important that we're doing this work in an intergovernmental collaboration. And that's why I'm so grateful for the leadership of our state legislators, our city council members, and others who are here with us today. No one else than an immigration attorney that happens to also be my state representative, who just recently passed legislation to protect our daycares from ICE. And so I'd like to introduce to you now Representative Lilian Jimenez.
Thank you so much to Congressman Quigley, to Congresswoman Delia Ramirez for acting so fast, bringing us together today. What I want to say is that this day, unfortunately, is not unusual for many of us who have been working in the community. Every day we get calls like this, whether it's a healthcare center the other day, my son's school multiple times throughout the month, and today a daycare center. We are not okay. This type of trauma that's being put on our community is going to take all of us to change. In the Illinois State Legislature, we work together. We work together to pass HB 1312, which has a number of provisions, and the provision that I championed was regarding child care centers, because so many people didn't know that we were going to get to this point. But unfortunately, some of us saw the writing on the wall. Some of us listened and believed them when they said the things that they said. This weekend, our president said they haven't gone far enough. I'm sure people heard that. They haven't gone far enough. I don't know if it rang a bell for all of you. When I saw those words, I almost shut down, because I have been living it for the last 30 to 60 days. And I understand that what he's telling these officers is to go harder, to be more vicious, to degrade these communities even more. And it's horrific and it's scary, and we're trying to ring the alarm bell here. That's why we're here. That's why you hear our voices trembling. But we are here because we are strong. In the Illinois legislature, we passed that bill. We passed that bill with a majority, and what it will do is instruct community centers, daycare centers, to understand what their rights are, to understand that they must lock the doors, to understand that they must train their staff, to understand that they must have conversations with family members, that they must have emergency contact information on file, that they must know what to do. Not if, but what we're seeing when parents are taken away, like we saw today. So we had the foresight, Latino Policy Forum, Illinois Coalition of Immigrant Refugee Rights, the Illinois Legislature, the House, the Senate, and very soon the governor The governor will be signing that bill. He has told us he will be signing it. And I invite you all to be there that day, because we must continue to stand together in Illinois to show the rest of the country who we are and who they must emulate, because Illinois is on the forefront of saving our communities and taking care of our communities. And with that, I'd love to introduce Commissioner Bridget Degnan.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Congressman Quigley for bringing us all here together. This is a huge showing in such a short time after such a terrible, terrible tragedy that happened this morning. So good afternoon. My name is Bridget Degnan. I'm the Cook County Commissioner in the 12th District, which covers parts of Chicago's north and northwest side. The events that took place this morning in Rayito del Sol are absolutely horrifying. As a mother, as a North Center resident, and as a person with basic empathy, I'm appalled at what has become the abhorrent treatment of our neighbors daily. Child care centers used to be considered protected locations alongside churches and hospitals, keeping access to basic services free from fear. Trump and his Gestapo have made it clear that they believe no place is sacred. They've also made it clear that the legality of their actions has never really mattered. This morning's abduction shows no clear sign of a warrant, and ICE agents were observed violently dragging the Rayito del Sol employee out from the building. As the woman was forced into an arrest, she can be heard telling the agents that she has papers, a status that should be seen normally as a simple inquiry and confirmation, rather than a violent incident. This administration, and let's be clear, administration is a word we normally use to think about the administration of justice, something that is fair. This is a regime. This regime believes itself to be above the law, above decency, and has no regard for the trauma they inflict. So where does this leave us? We know organized community efforts are working. Every single person that is assisting with rapid response, handing out whistles, and engaging in school patrols is making the objective of these agents more difficult to achieve. Our state and local governments are stepping up through measures like the recently passed HB 1312, executive orders prohibiting ICE from using county and city property, and barring ICE from arresting our neighbors at courthouses without a judicial warrant. Protecting our courthouses, like protecting our neighbors, is a foundation of our sense of justice, and it is especially critical at the moment. We're gonna have to fight tooth and nail to hold these immigration agents accountable, and the way that we do that is through our courts. So I urge everyone to continue to document with as much detail as possible, to engage in Court Watch, to support legal aid groups, and the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, and to each and every one of you to know your rights. Last night across the nation, we experienced a surge in hope. Affirmation that this country does not want to be subject to the cruelty of the Trump regime. That we do not just desire, but we demand and we deserve a nation that is one of morality and care for our neighbors. While we continue to experience these targeted attacks on our communities, we must let hope guide us, inspire us, and invigorate us, because this fight is far from over. I'd like to next invite up my good friend, County Commissioner Jessica Vasquez.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Vasquez. I'm 8th District Cook County Commissioner. First, I'd like to thank Congressman Quigley, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez for all of the support that they're providing to our communities. I will say that, a lot has already been said about what occurred this morning. To Representative Lillian Jimenez's point, we have been seeing these types of attacks in our communities for months. In January of 2025, we established the Northwest Side Rapid Response, which I am proud to be a co-chair of. The Northwest Side Rapid Response is a 500+ volunteer network of residents who help document, provide legal resources, and mutual aid to families that have been targeted by this vicious administration through federal agents, as well as through increasing tactics that we are seeing from what we suspect are individuals undercover, perhaps also posing as federal agents. What we are doing with our Northwest Side Rapid Response Network is we are proactively patrolling areas in which we feel there is increased activity. You heard Commissioner Degnan talk about our school patrols. That is something that we are expanding. We are also looking to provide mutual aid support. As we see these snap cuts hit our neighborhoods, our neighbors are afraid to access resources. And so our network is working with Organized Communities Against Deportation, Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, Arise Chicago, the Resurrection Project, a lot of nonprofit organizations that have been doing this work for decades to provide the support that our residents need. I'm calling on our residents to be a part of the work, to please get involved in your local rapid response network, to please be a part of our school patrols, to participate in any event that you feel could be vulnerable for our communities. And if you would like to get involved, please feel free to reach out to my office, reach out to the representatives here. We would love to have you join us as we continue to document all of these incidents and protect our neighbors. Thank you. Next up, I'd like to invite Alderman Matt Martin.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alderman Matt Martin. I have the privilege of representing the 47th Ward, where Rayito del Sol is located. Like many parents across the city, I start off most of my mornings dropping my kids off at our local school. Some people think of doing school drop-offs as being a mundane activity, a chore, but that's not the case for me. Because I know what our schools provide, I know what they do for our students day in and day out, and I know how much excitement that provides my kids when we're walking to school every day, because they know what awaits them. It's not just learning their ABCs or learning math, it is learning how to be a kind and decent person. I think it bears emphasizing that our schools are our most precious spaces. They nurture and educate our most important, but also our most vulnerable community members. And they are places where everyone should feel safe and secure without exception, period. But this morning, as I responded to the school after being notified that ICE was there, I saw what happens when that feeling of safety is shattered. I saw how tirelessly parents and educators have worked over the years to create this sense of safety and security at Rayito del Sol, and how in a matter of seconds that can come undone. With regard to the educator here, I was heartened to see in the videos how many of her fellow educators came to her aid physically, telling these ICE agents, you can't be here. This is a school. There are children here. She has papers. But they ignored that. They ignored all of those pleas with, as Congresswoman Ramirez mentioned, at least one ICE agent going room to room, an armed ICE agent looking for adults, looking for people to question. And it's also important to emphasize that violent takings like this have been happening across our city for months. This is not new. And I speak for most every Chicagoan when I say we've had enough of these horrific actions. ICE's actions are not normal, and we're tired of saying that day in and day out. ICE's actions are causing chaos and fear and trauma, and we shouldn't have to keep saying that day in and day out. ICE's actions aren't keeping our communities safer, and we shouldn't have to keep saying that. We need this educator home immediately. Her family needs that, her students need that, her colleagues need that. But we also need ICE to stop terrorizing our community, because it started off on sidewalks, and then it was yards, and then it's hospitals, and now it is schools. And if we can't feel safe in our schools, where can we feel safe? As was mentioned over the weekend, President Trump said that ICE's actions haven't gone far enough. Everybody in this room, everyone I've spoken with today, whether they are an educator, a parent, or a student, they couldn't disagree more. So I would say in response to what President Trump said over the weekend, shame on you, President Trump, and shame on every single ICE agent who is continuing to terrorize our wonderful city. I would like to now bring up to the podium my good friend and colleague, Alderman Scott Wagaspaw.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alderman Scott Wagasback, 32nd Ward. And what we saw here today is absolutely appalling on all levels. When I look at a child over there and I think about a masked man coming after that child, after a caretaker who takes care of that child, that is the lowest of the low of humanity. You heard from Ms. Guzman about how difficult it was to be there, along with all these parents who are here today. And you have to imagine what that felt like, what that feels like to have a child torn out of your arms. And I know a little bit of what that feels like. When I was in the Balkans in the 90s, I watched as wars unraveled, and we saw people taking away children from their parents. This is the kind of activity that you think of in terms of what despots do, what dictators do. What happened in the Balkans ended up getting a president into The Hague. And maybe that's what somebody needs to be reminded of today, every single day that these actions take place. I look at my congressmen here, Congresswoman Ramirez, Congressman Quigley. They've been working on the Ukraine issue. And we see the same thing there, where a dictator goes into a country and says, I'm going to tear it apart because I don't like what you're doing. Tearing children away from their parents and hauling them away. Taking caretakers away. People at all levels. And that's what we're seeing here in the United States. This has to stop, and it has to stop today. I urge all people from all parties to stand up and say that this president, that Homan, that Nome, that Bovino have gone too far, and it needs to stop here. I'm confident that what my congressmen are doing is going to help with that problem, but Americans need to stand up and say enough is enough across this country, not just here in Chicago, not just in Illinois. A couple of my elected official colleagues said it well. Everyone needs to stand up. This isn't an issue for Chicago. It is an issue for every single American. And it is appalling to me as a father, as a husband of an immigrant, that I see this happening in my country, in our country. Everybody that's standing here today. I know that aldermen don't have the ability to change those laws, but everyone in this country does. Everyone can stand up and say enough is enough. So I am urging, as one big step, that federal judge Sarah Ellis enforce what she told Bovino he had to do. Because someday, somehow, the masked men will be unmasked. You can't hide behind those phones. You can't hide behind the receipts. You can't just walk away to your other state and think that you're going to get away with it. Because there will be a reckoning someday. And that reckoning will happen when Americans rise up and say we've had enough. Thank you.
President of SEIU Healthcare, Greg Kelly.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you as well, Congresswoman Ramirez. I am Greg Kelly, and I have the honor of serving as president of SEIU Healthcare, but I'm also a parent. My union is a union of care providers, including child care providers, who are essential to not only providing care and education to our children, but keeping working families and our state's economy growing. The work that they do is essential, but as we saw this morning, they are now in the crosshairs of this inhumane and unjust mass deportation campaign. So let's ground ourselves quickly in what this incident was. It was an overly aggressive, terrifying attack on someone who has made the commitment to care for our children. Someone who makes it possible for Chicago families to go to work, knowing that their children are safe. But this morning, parents can no longer be assured that their children are safe. To target and terrify children and care providers is unconscionable. These are not standard law enforcement actions. They are acts of cruelty and intimidation, especially conducted in places meant to nurture and to protect. What happened in this morning is a serious escalation that endangers all of our children and all of our families. No child should be forced to witness violent acts against their caregiver. No parent should be afraid to send their child to daycare. And no child care worker should live in fear that they could be next just for doing their job. They are using public funds to do this, funds that are desperately needed to feed families and provide care for our children and seniors, to attack and terrorize our communities with impunity. It is appalling and it is outrageous. But today I can speak for our members of SEIU, child care workers, home care workers, nursing home workers, hospital workers, and say that we are with you, we stand with you, we will fight with you to the end. We understand what we are up against, but we are clear that when we are in solidarity with one another, protecting each other, looking out for one another, that we really can make a difference. Thank you. I'd like to bring up Nick Ramos from the Resurrection Project.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicholas Ramos. I am the Director of Government Affairs for the Resurrection Project. Another cruel event, another hard event. But I will say, look around here. This is what solidarity looks like. We show up, we protect one another. We fight for every single family, including Diana, and the hundreds and thousands of individuals currently in detention right now. We are here for Diana. We are here for every family living through this. This isn't new. This has been going on since January and even prior. This moment demands action from all of us. So I plead with everybody listening, join a rapid response. Grab your whistle, call the hotline, grab a sign. We have materials here from the Resurrection Project so you can know your rights. So please, please, please take out your phone and make sure that you're always witnessing this. If you witness an ICE encounter, please, again, record it. Sound the alarm. Call the hotline, 855-435-7693. Let me say it one more time, 855-435-7693. And if you have the opportunity to know who this individual is, please come to trpimmigrationjustice.org and fill out the detained loved one form so we can try to do our best to help as much as possible. Now is the time to take action and to support organizations like the Resurrection Project, like ICER, like NIJC, like Erie House, like every non-profit organization doing the groundwork. We need your help. So please, if you have the time to, or you have the wallet, please provide some donations if you can, because this work does take money. So many of us are working every day to make sure our communities have the critical information they need, and we can't do it without you. Thank you all, and I will pass it along to Congressman Quigley. Thank you.
Oh, we have one more guest speaker. I'm sorry.
Congress,
Not
thank
getting
you.
there.
We're doing a lot of ice watch out these days. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alderperson Andre Vasquez, Chair of the Committee on Immigrant and Refugee Rights, Co-Chair of the Progressive Caucus, Chair of the Latino Caucus. And these days, when we're all working on budgets, most of our time is spent in our wards, because we know every couple seconds we have a signal chat going off about somebody seeing some vehicle or someone with a mask going somewhere. We were heading into City Hall this morning when we got the word from Alderman Martin about the incident that had occurred. It is absolutely horrifying and shameful that we've gotten to this level of escalation from the federal government. And we need to remind each other that it's the federal government doing it. One might call it domestic terrorism, and it would be correct. They've gone from just picking up people working, just landscapers doing their job, trying to pay their bills, paying taxes like everyone else, snatching them up in the middle of work, to now going inside of buildings and going inside a child care center. It frightens me because I don't believe it to be an anomaly. I do believe it's an escalation, and I'm concerned we're going to see more of it. There's been many times that we've been pretty reactive, right? We've heard when the day laborers are starting to get snatched up that we then had to organize and figure things out. I think seeing this kind of escalation today should be something we all take into account as we plan forward. It is going to continue, And I know some of us would like to take some level of solace and think that, well, winter's coming and it might slow down. I would advise people not to have any level of comfort in that. And to think about what kind of folks might be out there during the winter. We anticipate maybe more delivery drivers, rideshare workers being similarly attacked. We have to make sure that we take every measure possible as a community to keep us safe. I feel the same kind of frustration I believe everybody in here feels. We get emails from neighbors all the time. What is the Chicago police gonna do about it? What can you do in your level of state government? This is a different moment. We're talking about federal law enforcement and a weaponized government against its people. We're all crossing our fingers and hoping for elections to change things, but we don't have that time right now. In this moment, we've got people over at Broadview. You're talking 150 to 200 people in a place not much bigger than this, maybe 2-3 times this size. They don't have enough space to sleep in. They don't get food. And when we talk to organizations like ICER or TRP, they want those places to continue because it might be the only way to track them. People are, huh?
But they can't be expanded.
Definitely not. But what we know is without those there, you might even not know where they are. We have, I think, over 170 citizens that have been detained. So I would say this, we've been watching as these attacks have happened to every community. They've taken away history from our black community. They've had our trans folks running around in fear, and now they're taking these actions against, whether you're undocumented or citizens, it is happening. So these are the moments in history when everyone asks themselves that same adage, right? What did we do in 1930s Germany? What did we do in 1920s Germany? It's what people are doing now. If you're anybody here in the city of Chicago and you don't have a whistle around your neck and you're not out here doing school patrol, please find time to do so. We need everyone here. They're attacking blue cities, they're attacking blue states. We need to take it that seriously. And I want to thank every single person, every organization. You guys were doing so much with so little before it got this bad. And now we need everybody in Chicago to show what Chicago is all about. So I thank all of you for that work. We're not going anywhere. We keep us safe. Thank you very much.
The Alderman's right. There was tear gas released in previous incidents in front of schools, in front of daycares. But at this time, we'd like to see if there are any questions.
Congressman, there is a statement from Customs and Border Protection who says that the ICE agents did not target a daycare, that they were trying to make a targeted traffic stop of someone they describe as illegal, and that the person then barricaded themselves inside the daycare, endangering children. You and maybe Congresswoman Ramirez have a comment on that, and also what you may have heard from federal authorities about what happened.
I have heard, first of all, if you're waiting for the federal authorities to contact our office, or even
We'll be waiting for a while.
or even reply to us on what has been normal procedure, just simple human decency, take some time and talk to our staffs. This has been a purposeful attempt to evade trying to find out basic information. They are moving people around, they're not telling us the truth. So I'm not in a point where I have any faith or trust that you're going to get truth as to where people are, or to get any information, or how they describe the situation. Because simply by the acts of where they are going, they can say they aren't targeting a daycare, but that's where they were this morning. And the person they targeted had legal documentation. So let's just pull back a second and remember one other thing. They're supposed to be going after the worst of the worst. If they're now trying to tell us that what's left of the worst is a document, someone with papers who is educating kids at a daycare, then I think everything they say comes into question. But I'll let my colleague answer as well.
I'm reading what Assistant Secretary Tricia McCollum wrote.
Right.
And let me just be very clear. They lie. They lie over and over and over. The same way they lied about Silverio Villegas Gonzalez when they killed him, they're lying here. I'm going to tell you, as someone that actually physically saw the footage inside the daycare center, they went inside the daycare center, questioned and took someone to her locker room to prove she had papers. We saw them run in and out, and you saw some of that footage already on WGN. They are lying here. The woman that they're referring to in the statement is a teacher at Rayito del Sol. That is who they targeted. She was on her way to work. That is how she was targeted. And so this is why I think it's so important that what we said, what Alderman Andre said here. I know I'm having first name basis here. It's been a long day, Andre. It's been a long day. Yeah, and we're Guatemala. There you go. Guatemalan American. They'll say we're committing treason if we're proud of our roots. But here's the thing. The recording is really important. The cameras are really important, because what you're finding right now is that you have an agency that believes that there is no oversight responsibility over them, that are going to continue to viciously lie and issue whatever statement they want, and they want you to accept that statement as if it's a valid statement. We have footage. I think you're going to see more footage come out in the next few hours that is going to demonstrate just how far they went and what rooms they went into.
And a quick
Let me
follow-up.
just say, because we want to get to all of them, just, you don't have to leave your common sense at the door when you come in. They also said they weren't detaining any U.S. citizens. They have, what?
Over 180.
170, 180 at this point in time. This is the president, when he gets in the room with the truth, a fight breaks out. So, you know, I take that with a grain of salt, but we have a lot of folks. I'm going to continue with the other questions. Yes?
Do we know where this teacher is now? And talk more about that work permit and why DHS would call her illegal.
I can't explain why they would do anything.
Well, you can't really explain why they would say what they say, because they're incompetent and they don't actually look for documentation. But our understanding is that she is at Broadview. And I know my office and I know the Congressman's office has contacted the family and attempted to also contact the Colombian consul to be able to get more information and status and figure out how to help her get out of
And
there.
can you release that video from inside the daycare so we can see what you're explaining?
I think the daycare should be releasing that. I know that we have seen some of that footage, and I think that over the next few hours, you're going to see more of that. I mean,
Yeah.
you saw some stuff from the outside, and I think that others saw other things as well.
Yeah, there's videos that are taken by people. We have to get their permission as
Right,
well.
but from inside, because you said the agents went room to room.
They did. And so we're gonna work with the daycare to ensure that the daycare has the supports it needs in order to be able to release the footage that demonstrates all of this.
Obviously, the potential for kids being in the video,
Sure,
and that
we
makes
blur
it
them, but-
much of it. Yeah, sure, yes.
I was actually.
Responder en español, congresista,
Sí.
exactamente lo que usted vio y por qué dice que las autoridades federales están mintiendo.
Sí. Las autoridades están mintiendo, las autoridades dijeron que la persona que estaban siguiendo era que lo estaban correteando ya un hombre y una mujer. Esta era una maestra que trabajaba en el daycare y a ella no la arrestaron afuera. Ella entraron al daycare a múltiples cuartos buscando a personas, mientras las maestras que tenían niños ahí corrieron a esconder cuando vieron pistolas. Entonces eso es muy importante que que la gente entienda que si no fuera porque vemos las grabaciones, lo que se ha grabado, ellos van a continuar mintiendo. Así que trabajaremos con el centro de daycare, obviamente sus abogados y todos, para poder asegurarse que la información necesaria esté afuera para que vean la verdad.
Congresista, ¿sabe más o menos cuánto tiempo estuvieron los agentes dentro del daycare?
María, no sé si tú quieres añadirle a eso.
Can you tell them what she asked?
In English. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you translate the question too?
Yeah, so the question was, can you let us know how long they were in the center? It wasn't very long from my understanding, but they did enter multiple times.
María, ¿cuánto tiempo estuvieron? Y lo que usted dice como madre también
Sí.
de la situación que vivieron.
Claro que sí. Estuvieron en el daycare, no sería más de 10 minutos, pero entraron múltiples veces. Y entraron a varios cuartos. Como madre me siento, este es un momento irreal. No puedo imaginarme que esta ahora es una preocupación mía, que no me siento segura mandar a mis niños a un lugar donde yo he cometido que ellos estén ahí por nuestra cultura, por nuestro idioma y todo el orgullo que yo siento. Es horrífico saber que las maestras están terrorizadas.
A quick summary.
And yes, I'm happy to translate that. I was just saying that as a parent, I'm horrified that the place that I've entrusted my children with and their care is now a place of fear, a place where teachers are fearful and they cannot fathom being there safely.
And
I'm
Maria,
gonna tell
or
you, my staff has informed me that when they talk to ICE individuals or some people who may respond, they're told that if they respond or cooperate with us, they could get suspended.
Any word from what will happen at the daycare center the remainder of this week or moving forward? Will they be closed or?
For today, it's obviously closed. There's been no information about the rest of the week.
Any word from management over what has happened?
They-
We've reached out to the daycare center but haven't heard back.
Yes, they're aware and will be here for the rally that's taking place this afternoon or 6:30 p.m. at North Center Square. So they're aware.
And I have Maria, or for any of the other parents who were at the daycare, what is your response? Hearing what DHS is saying, that this teacher barricaded herself inside, and that it was because she barricaded herself inside that they had to come in. What is your response to what the federal government is saying about how this unfolded?
They illegally entered the building. There is a sign at the door that says this is a business and a private place. They illegally pushed their way into the building. There was no barricading. There was none of that. They illegally entered the building. I don't know that.
I would also just add, they're claiming that.
Tara, can you, Sheriff,
yes,
can you
yeah.
come over, and I think
Sorry.
you need to introduce yourself for those. who
Sorry,
don't
I'm
know you.
Tara Godarzi. I'm a mother at the school as well. I worked closely with Maria all morning and the other parents here. I just wanted to point out their statement in regards to the traffic stop. I don't believe they have any authority to be conducting immigration raids pursuant to traffic stops in the city of Chicago. So that's another misuse of the law and abuse of their power.
Maria, can you just ask in relation to the traffic stop, maybe this is a question for you, but it says in that statement, I think it's worth questioning everything at this point. They said it was a man driving the car. Do we know who that is? Does that person even exist? Was he a student or do you know anything about that?
I don't think we don't have that information, and we don't have the ability to be able to provide that information at this time.
No comment, no, you don't know if that person's related to there?
We don't have any details right now. No.
María, yo quisiera saber a ver si puedes dar un mensaje para los padres de la escuela, algo que le podrías decir en español a ellos.
The question was if I can give a message to the parents. I started a parents group this morning. They know that we are all here in support. We are going to do everything in our power and beyond our power to help this teacher, but to also bring back this sense of safety. Sí, claro que sí. Yo creo un grupo de padres para asegurar que estemos todos conectados y vamos a hacer todo en nuestro poder y pasado de nuestro poder para asegurar que que las maestras se vuelvan a sentir seguras y que estén cuidadas, porque ellas han dedicado sus vidas a cuidar a nuestros hijos y que ellas sientan ese miedo es absolutamente horrendo.
I'd like to respond in Espanol of the question that was just asked about what to say to the parents regarding the bill that just passed the Illinois legislature and is on its way to the governor's desk. Me gustaría decirle a las familias inmigrantes y las familias hispanas que en Illinois apenas estamos pasando una ley nueva. Ya pasamos una ley protegiendo a los estudiantes en la educación en la escuela de kindergarten hasta high school, hasta la secundaria, y ahora, eso fue en mayo y es algo que yo ayudé con esa propuesta, y ahora tenemos una nueva propuesta que va a proteger a los centros de infantil, ¿verdad? Los centros infantil, y es importante que los padres sepan que no podemos hacer todo porque es el gobierno federal que está entrando en nuestra ciudad, pero nosotros que estamos en Illinois, que somos los representantes y el gobernador, estamos haciendo todo lo posible para apoyar a las familias. También hemos puesto fondos a las organizaciones que han escuchado ahorita para que puedan ayudar con casos legales. Entonces, si llaman ese número que mencionaron ahorita, que maybe repeat it again, Nick, in a bit. Si pueden llamar ese número a la organización, allí es donde el estado de Illinois está poniendo recursos para que tengamos apoyo de abogados de inmigración.
I just want to ask one last question, and this is just to confirm. There's a GoFundMe going on. Is that a true GoFundMe? Because I know that sometimes in this crisis, someone...
Yes, parents have organized that.
Okay,
Los
awesome.
padres han organizado. I just want to make an additional point that this is not just a school where there are Latin American families. This is a school where everyone in the city intentionally chooses to send their children because it is bicultural, because it is bilingual, because there is care for their children. So this isn't just for Latin American families, but this is for all folks who appreciate diversity and who understand the importance of multiple cultures.
It highlights, I want to stress, it also highlights the number of businesses that are being extraordinarily damaged by what's taking place. You know, I can't tell people where to eat, but I think going down to 26th Street tonight and having dinner would be a really good idea, and shopping in all those areas in Pilsen and Albany Park and all the other businesses that are being ravaged by what's taking place. I mean, in Little Village, there are florists that are getting crushed with tariffs and the fact that people are canceling all their events. So they're laying people off. There's real pain taking place. So forgive me when we get into the nuance of he said, she said. It's the old Latin res ipsa, right? It speaks for itself. We're talking about a raid at a daycare. We're talking about kids that have to be walked to school because their parents don't feel safe. These are just broad parameters that we're talking about. So if ICE wants to go into the nuance of what they're arguing about, what took place in a daycare, the headline should be in a daycare. So we have time for a couple more, yes?
Hi, you guys were referring to the woman as Diana. I was wondering if you could share her full name.
I'm not in a position.
All right, let her do so.
No.
Pero nos puedes decir ella cuánto tiempo llevaba como profesora en esa escuela.
No tenemos detalles sobre el caso.
Any other question? Yes.
Do we know specifically what legal status this woman had?
We don't.
Congressman, a real quick follow-up. Last Thursday, Kristi Noem was in Northwest Indiana and said flatly, people who are here legally are not being detained, and any report that you hear to the contrary is false reporting. How do you counter that narrative from Washington?
Yeah, well, first of all, we talked to attorneys and family of people who are detained or are U.S. citizens, and the fact that her lips were moving and that I like dogs and she's a monster tells me that she kills dogs. So, look, you see some anger and frustration here, and that's worship. I can't begin to appreciate and understand what people are going through here in Chicago. This is a tyrant at his worst. He's getting you used to using the military as a toy. He's getting you used to this. He's not 1 year into his second term here. I voted to impeach the guy twice, right? So if you think, I think the Alderman said it right. This isn't a continuation. It's an escalation. And frankly, you're just starting to see how horrific it can get.
With all due respect, it is ludicrous
Give me a second.
to keep asking if he's telling the truth. He's a liar, and so is our whole crew.
He is, and here's the easiest way for me to answer that question for you. Congressman Quigley and I and a number of my colleagues have had to actually put in congressional inquiries to help get our American citizen constituents released from Broadview detention. We physically have the paperwork that we have filed in partnership with Senator Durbin in order to release them. So if that is a lie, then why do we have the paperwork and why do we have the names of the constituents? And so I just think it's really important to give you that specific fact, because I think to the congressman's point, she's going to continue to viciously lie, and they want to know how far they could go. And it's really important to note this again too. They want to know how far they can go in Chicago so they can replicate this throughout the country. Every single person around the country should be watching what's happening here. They think that they can do it here and get into a daycare, a school, a hospital. They'll be able to do it anywhere in this country. So watch, make those calls. That sensitive location bill, we should get every single member of Congress in the bill.
All right, last question, if not?
855-435-7693.
Thank you.
855-435-7693. Every Chicagoan should have it on their phone.
Anyway, people will be sticking around for a little while if anyone wants to talk to one individually. But thank you all for being here. Someone should apologize to the kids, the parents, the staff, the teachers, on behalf of our country. I am sorry that you're going through this, and we're going to hold them accountable.
That's right. Diana. That's right.
Thank you all.
Diana.
Hi. How are you doing?